Hey there, Green Garden Guy here. We're about ready to get to pruning some roses. Some of the basic tools that we need to use when we're going to prune roses are gloves, keep your hands from getting stuck, loppers so we can reach inside the plant and do some cutting without getting thorned, and a pair of hand pruning shears. Okay, so there's your tools. Now let's have a look at our subjects over here. So today we're in this absolutely fabulous rose garden up in the Bay Area Hills. We're doing the work once a year, come in here and prune these guys down. Now in the process of pruning, you'll hear me talking about things like bud scar. Look for a bud scar. And so that fixture right there, if you can see it, there's a horizontal line that cuts across the stem. It's got a little point on the end of it. That's what we call a bud scar. Another one here on this side. This one you can see is a little bit green at the tip, and so that's going to end up growing out. And when we're pruning a rose, we may not have active buds like we see on this shoot, okay? We may just have dormant bud scars. We want to try to prune so that when we cut the end of the branch, it's pointing towards a bud scar, so the next growth will come outward from the center rather than inward to the middle. Always trying to get roses to spread out. We don't want them coming inward like this, okay? So if there is no green growth to see, then look for these little horizontal lines with a little point in the center that we call a bud scar, okay? Otherwise, we can look for green shoots like these. They work just as well if they're visible. Right here we have a rose that is currently unpruned in its native state. You'll see there is wood heading in all different directions. Wood goes through the middle of the plant, wood goes to the outside of the plant, wood crosses. Part of the process of pruning will be to remove all of the wood that goes inward, to remove all of the wood that crosses, and then to try to pick out canes that are nice, green, fresh, rather than old and woody, and use those as the canes that make up our bush. Now here you can see a bunch of roses that we're already finished with. The roses have reduced to about, maybe 3 to 7 main canes, which is good. All of the canes head outward from the middle of the rose. There's another bed in this fabulous rose garden of roses that we have already finished pruning. Again, look down here from the top of the rose. You see that all the branches head outward from the middle. Kind of like spokes in a wagon wheel. Really vigorous roses, we may leave up to 7 canes. Roses that are weaker, like that one right there, well, we can manage to get 3 canes out of that one. You do your best. Too many canes is not good because the rose gets crowded and it will get fungus to eat. Roses need really good air circulation. So now we prune these back well, so there's a lot of space in between the roses. We've also pruned them so that they are wide open in the middle. The other thing we've done is we've taken away the oldest wood on the plant. Right here is an opportunity to see both old and young wood. The young wood has this reddish or greenish color. It's usually definitely straighter, less forked. Old wood next to it over here is gray, has the knobs from old pruning scars, and so on it. The old wood is not as vigorous as the young wood is. It can also contain diseases and insects over time. So we tend to try, as we're looking at our rose, to find branches that will be fresh and vigorous and prune away old branches. You can see I've been doing these roses in this garden now for a number of years. Down there at the base you can see the stubs from old canes that I've removed, trying to get this rose to fresh up. And as we cut away the older wood, the rose will oblige us by producing more vigorous, young, fresh shoots. Now we're going to go where the pruning shear hits the road. And so the first thing I'm looking at here in this rose is, this is old wood here. There's a nice vigorous shoot that came up right behind it. So I'm going to take the old wood out, just like that. There we go. Got that one. Over here we don't have such good options, and so cut that cane back. We want to make sure that when we make our cuts on an angle so rainwater drains off. We don't want rainwater accumulating on the ends of our cuts. Okay, so I've found a branch here that's vigorous. There's this one here crossing it, so I'm going to take that off. And generally simplification is the key, so I'm removing all the small shoots that are coming sideways off of this rose, pruning it back only to the major ones. Okay, at that point we've used the lopper to start the work because that allowed me to reach inside the rose and prune without getting stabbed. But I will cut now with this tool because it's a little easier to direct this. So I'm going to prune these canes back nicely. See if we can find an outward facing bud on this one. There's one right there. Okay, very good. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off any of the wood that's pointing through the middle of this rose. Okay, taking off all the canes that go inward. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the height of all the wood just in an arbitrary fashion here. The reason I'm doing that is I don't like getting stuck in the nose while I'm working with roses. Okay, now we have some decisions to make. This cane here is too vertical. It's going straight up and down. I'm going to take it off right at the base of the rose. Okay, this cane is the only one filling that space, so it's going to stay. And we're going to remove that off the end, and we're going to cut it back there to an outward facing bud. Over here, this is the only cane that's filling this space in the rose, and so we're going to cut off the inward stubs, save the strongest looking piece at the end like that. Over here we have several choices. There's this cane right here, and there's this cane there. I'm going to take this one off because this one is a little bit inward. Okay, this one spreads better over here. So that's going to become that new cane in that space. Over here, we're going to look this branch this way. I'm going to see, can I find an outward facing bud on this thing anywhere? I really can't. Okay, so I'm going to live with this. I'm going to have to cut this one back to a bud scar right there. That's kind of a 90-degree turn, but that's the way it goes, okay? Here, I got a bud pointed out that direction. Here, I got a bud pointing out there. Again, I'm trying to make these cuts so the water's going to fall off of them, so they're kind of roof-like. Here, it's hard to see in this light, but there should be a bud here somewhere. That looks like one right there. Okay, here, then we simplify the end of this thing. This is an old piece of rose cane. Hopefully, if we cut it back hard enough, we may get ourselves a new shoot coming from down lower. Okay. All right, same thing here. Inward facing wood goes. Okay. So all wood running through the center of the rose is being evacuated. Okay, next, then arbitrarily reducing the height of the canes. Okay, next, I suppose the question would come up with people, how high do we prune these roses off the ground? Well, there are options there. Generally speaking, somewhere between 6 and 24 inches works fine. Okay. In this case, I'm going to try to prune the shorter growing roses a little bit taller and the taller growing roses a little shorter so that they kind of even their growth out during the year. There we go. That left 4 main canes. Here we go again. Off the tops back. Ain't nothing worse than getting a rose cane right in the eyeball. And that's the reason we use the lopper too, because the lopper keeps us at a distance from our work. Okay, so let's study this beast. It's clear that we got stuff here looping through the middle. These are very strong, well-grown roses. They have a lot of wood. This is really a fabulous rose garden. So I've reduced the height, And then I'm working on subtracting all the wood that's on the inside of the plant. Okay, there we go. That's most of it. Next, let's make some decisions here. Okay. Alright, there's wood that's out here on this one. There's wood that's here. This cane is older. I'm going to remove this one. I'm going to favor the wood that's on the outside here. Okay, again here. Old piece of wood, multi-branched. Young piece of wood next to it. Take off the old piece of wood. I'm leaving a little bit above the soil. Don't cut the roses below the ground. Leave that there because that's going to produce new buds that will come up and make nice new strong canes this next year. That may be our replacement canes on this rose. Okay. Outward facing bud here. Get rid of these shoots. That one there. This one I'm going to cut back short. Try to get it to refork. This one's good. That's doing outward bud already. Try to find a bud scar on this. I can't see it. Come on, be obliging. There we go. Found one. Okay, here. This is good. This one here, outward. Here. Another vice fat outward bud. Looks like we got a little cane here. Clean these up. Oh, perfect.